You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hey everyone, this is episode 22, and 22 is my lucky number, and I saved it for Rakhi because I knew that we were going to have a really great chat today. So yeah, hi Rakhi, I love that I'm here with you today. Episode 22. Introduce yourself, tell us about yourself.
I feel even more honoured now that I know this is your lucky number. So cool. So I'm Rakhi. I am an embody acceptance and embodiment facilitator.
Yes, and we've kind of crossed paths a few times, haven't we, in like different scenarios. And then you actually joined me for one of my classes last year, and you slayed, by the way. I was like, yes. And it's, I mean, obviously everything you do is about body acceptance, and that's very much, you know, kind of like a little trickle of who I am, you know, like your whole work is this. But, you know, even in my dance classes, it's so important that I, you know, share that enjoyment of our bodies, and that our bodies are a safe space. So I felt like yeah, hopefully that was the reason why you came as well. But yeah, please.
It was amazing. It was an amazing class. I honestly say to myself every week, I'm going to go back, The last time I was there was November. So it's a bit shameful now. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been back yet, but I will be back.
Yeah, no stress at all. Like I always say that this space is open, you know, like for me with dance is like a tool, you know, like I think if you feel aligned to come, if you don't, there's no pressure at all. But I guess that kind of opens up nicely into you and your story. So please tell us how you stepped into this journey of, you know, being the embodiment coach that you are. You can go all the way back to childhood. Take us through whatever you'd like to share.
So I'll take it back to when I was about 11 or 12. I got diagnosed with an eating disorder, and that really was off the back of being told, like, you need to lose weight from sort of the age of 8. So yeah, I guess, you know, for me, losing weight was how I felt like I was going to be loved and accepted, especially because the people telling me were close. They were close in my life. So I thought losing weight was the way. That's how I'll gain the love I'm craving. But that turned into like dieting, then turned into a fully fledged eating disorder. And my whole life, I'd say most of my life, from about 13 up until 25/26, has just been in recovery, to be honest. I went from one eating disorder to another. So just when I thought I'd come out the woods, I kind of went back into the woods, but on a different path. And yeah, that's kind of how this is all kind of manifested. I feel like my whole journey has been about coming back home to myself and my body.
Yeah, amazing. And I feel like, I don't want to say it's common, but I feel like it's one of the common disorders that we face as women, especially. Now, I know that obviously men face it, and obviously, you know, however you identify relates within that. Obviously, this podcast is predominantly for women.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's obviously the pressure from society, and, you know, I guess really that's the whole, isn't it, of what it is. And now with the rise of social media and all of those things. And I think for me, that I had definitely had an element of body dysmorphia from my own family, because my sister was always really super slim. So because she was so slim, I was automatically fat. And I was like, cool. So my whole life I thought I was fat when I actually wasn't. But it was just because they were comparing me. And luckily enough for me, well,
you know what, now I think about it, I spoke about this before, I do think that there was probably an element of an eating disorder to an extent, because I did do the crash diets, the Chinese teas, you know, like the laxative teas, all of those things I did through college training as a dancer. And I think that was obviously a massive perpetrator in my journey as well. But I mean, if you're comfortable to share a little bit more on your journey in that, it'd be really helpful, I think, for a lot of people, if you're happy to.
Yeah, of course. Well, do you mind me using the terms of what I had?
No, please do.
So I went from anorexia nervosa to binge eating disorder. So essentially, going from like full-on restriction, I kind of then, so how it kind of went was I physically became better. My period started again after 2 years. I was functioning again, but the restriction was still sort of happening. However, of course, in the doctor's eyes, I'm okay. I'm good now. I can be released from the clinic and discharged, and I can go. Went out into the world, and I kind of just felt the pressure of the societal pressure of like getting really good grades and being like the perfect daughter, being a perfect student. And I was getting that pressure from mostly my college, especially with the good grades. And that then led me down that path of binging, because I just felt so stressed all the time. And I was also restricting. So it was like the stress of college, plus I'm restricting. All my mind is now saying, like, you need to lose control in some way. And I lost it through, well, using food.
Yeah, I completely resonate with everything you said there. And I think we see it so much, you know, in young people now, and not even young people. I think a lot of adults are blissfully unaware of their patterns that they're doing. And it's because, you know, with anyone that comes to me with an eating disorder, I always say that it's your way of trying to control your external experience. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're told about your body shape and all of those things, that's obviously a massive, you know, propeller as to why you would fall into an eating disorder. But also people that fall into it that are unaware of it is because, obviously, like we said, they're trying to gain control of what's happening externally. And it's such a perpetuating cycle, isn't it, in that space? And especially for you, you know, like if you've come out the other side and then you've almost gone too far. But you know what's a really common thing there for both of us is that that's actually how I manage my life in general. And I've noticed that recently with my own masculine and feminine journey. So I'm actually I probably would have done a post on this by this point, but I like to say it's like a pendulum. So that my own navigation in my own life has been to go between both polarities, to then almost like find that balance, that middle ground in between. And it seems like that's kind of been your journey almost, is that you've gone between the two. And now obviously you've found this in-between space that I'm guessing from you and your journey and me seeing that from an outside perspective is that this is your stable ground, you know, that where you're now building upon in your business and all of these things. And that's really, you know, for me, which I'm so passionate about, is integrity. So when I have, you know, guests on, especially because I outreached you, you know, I wanted you on here because of this integrity. And it's so important. And I think this is really where, no, we spoke about this before we started recording, about the integrity of coaching and mentoring is from this space of lived experience that you can't learn from anywhere, because it's who you are. And I think that's this beautiful, rich space that you're in now, is, you know, from your own journey and path. So, you know, obviously for me, that mental health and mindset are all connected to what I do. And I just wonder, in this process of, you know, your eating disorders, was there common thoughts that were coming up for you in this time? You know, like what were the common thoughts, if you're happy to share, obviously, because I feel like a lot of people might be experiencing something along those lines. Or
a lot of my thoughts were very weight centric. So it was, you know, I'm not thin enough. And when I went down the binge eating route, I did gain very fast. And that then I felt extremely ashamed. And of course, people also saw those changes, or, you know, I thought people were watching and, like, you know, making inner judgments. No one really said things as such. I used to just get comments if I'd lost weight more than if I'd gained, especially as time went on. But yeah, they were very weight centric. Like, I need to lose weight, I need to look better, I need to, and I think also because especially in the binge eating phase of my life, I think I was almost so sorry for my body. I was a huge, like, chronic people pleaser. I think I was almost apologizing for what I looked like, that it was like, you know, let me make sure I'm doing everything else right, because I can't get my body right. And that actually perpetuated the binging, because I'm putting all this pressure on myself, and I'm feeling so disconnected from myself. Food was almost the connection to me.
Yeah, and it's almost like, did you feel like fulfillment in feeling full? Is there like an element of that? Did that play into part, like the actual eating?
That's interesting. I don't think I felt fulfilled in feeling full, like physically full, but I think it gave me a spiritual fullness that I didn't have. I was empty. So I think it, you know, in a very weird way, there was a spiritual fullness there, but no, like that physical feeling of being full was not great at all.
Yeah. No, it's so complex, isn't it? Like eating disorders. And I think people that don't understand it have a very limited mindset when it comes to accepting it. I think I feel like it's so in my field of work and like the people I've been around as a dancer, that I feel like I understand it more than most, especially when I now hear, obviously, you know, my guests and, you know, just even other dancers and people in, you know, various different industries, women as a whole, when I hear their stories, it actually makes me think, gosh, yeah, I definitely had an element of that myself in so many ways, you know, especially the like the emotional eating and things like that for me was definitely a thing, and control too, you know, definitely. I mean, we all know how much I've suffered with control. I'm quite open to share that with my toxic masculine ways. That control was my one thing, and actually whenever I feel like a tip of like a wobble in life, you know, something goes off and I'm like, oh, I can feel myself go into this reactive state of what do I need to do, and that's my indicator of being like, no, step back, abort mission, abort. And I guess that leads into like you know, me asking you, like, has there been, you know, a common obstacle that's come up for you even now when you're out of like your remission, let's say, you know, is there something that, you know, is there a trigger for you, and like how do you navigate that space?
Interesting question. Oh, let me think about that one. It's so I don't get triggered in terms of food anymore. Which is actually such a blessing to say out loud, because I didn't think I'd get to this point. So it really does make me quite emotional to even say that out loud. I do think I fall into the quite masculine control state when I get triggered, whether that's needing to keep things clean around me. And yeah, that's not necessarily unhealthy, but I guess it's more how you're reacting that's unhealthy, as opposed to necessarily like what you're doing might not be unhealthy. Keeping a space clean is, you know, actually a great thing. But it's the whole like, I need to do something, I need to, you know, you feel so on edge. I need to message people, I need to, like, being still feels hard for me when I'm triggered. Which is, I feel like what you were sort of saying, like,
oh yeah,
I can't be still, even though a lot of like spiritual literature might be like, you need to get still when you feel triggered. I'm like, how? Because I really don't know how to do that in the midst of like a storm. I'm here like, right, so what do I need to do next? It's almost like I'm trying to plan for something, and it's like, well, what am I even planning?
No, I absolutely agree with you, and I think that's a really nice way of saying it. I need to plan for something. And it's almost like us trying to grab, you know, like it's like we're falling and we're trying to grab all of the edges to hold on to, when actually if we just let go and fell. Have you seen Harry Potter? Potter? You know, like Devil's Snare in the first episode, they're like, stop resisting it, just let it take you.
Let it go. Yes. And for me, it's also like, I need to know things.
Yes.
Like
oh my gosh.
I need to, if I don't know something, even if it's as simple as like, say I'm even making a plan with a friend, and I don't know the details of that, like 2 days before, if I've been triggered by something, I'm like, what's going to happen? What's happening in 2 days' time? I don't know what's going on. I need to know. And it's being in a flow state feels very difficult for me when I'm triggered.
Yeah, do you know what? I agree with you, and that strengthened for me. I must say, and I've noticed that really recently with just things that have happened in my life. I could see where I would have previously been very triggered, and how I've been able to take a step back. And I referred to it like Gary Zukav's seat of the soul. It's like, you know, that back seat where you can just observe.
Yeah,
that's and that for me is me being able to see that for myself is a really beautiful revelation. And it's so funny, I just looked up and I just saw the book there, so I was like, oh, all right, universe, thank you, thanks, hon. Yeah, so that's, I guess, and this is the beauty of life, I think. It's about this constant journey. You know, we say healing is not linear, it's, you know, circular, and you'll keep going through these phases over and over again. Just to, and I don't want to, it is to test you, really. And I've funny enough, this post will be on my grid already, but it's about, like, if you could like, the reason, how would you know that you're strong and powerful and all of these things if you wasn't tested? You wouldn't know. So that's why we have to go through these tests, is for us to be able to see it for ourselves and believe in it, because we wouldn't be able to do that otherwise, you know. And I think that's the powerful part of life, I think, really, is this.
I do agree. And I think, you know, I always kind of, sometimes when I'm doing like a gratitude list, or I'm like having a bit of a dialogue with God and the universe, I'm just kind of like, thank you for all the experiences you've given me, because of course they were really muddy and hard, and in that moment that's, you want to just run away. But having now moved through them, like, on hindsight, I can just say, like, I wouldn't be in this place today, whether it's building the business or just in the person I am. I wouldn't be any of this without those experiences. So I kind of saw testament to that, really.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't take anything away from my journey and my experiences. And I think that's just a really beautiful way of looking at life. And actually, I listened to a podcast. I can't remember what the name of it, the person was. He's like, does the Happiness Project or something, and he was interviewed by Stephen Bartlett, Mo something, and he lost his son. And he basically said in that as well, he wouldn't take anything away, as painful as that is, because none of this would have happened as a result of. And I just felt, I'm a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason. You know, we can't see at the time, but when we look back, we're like, okay, that was the reason why. And I guess that kind of connects to what I was thinking about when you were speaking about spirituality. Like, in your process of your eating disorders, were you connected to spirituality at that time, or is that something that you developed as a healing mechanism?
I love this question, because I literally was thinking about this before our chat. At the age of 14, I got introduced to The Secret, which actually I feel like was quite a young age to get introduced to that. But that's when I started to dabble in the law of attraction. And it really kind of provided me some sort of hope with, you know, especially recovery, because it was just so muddy at the time. So that definitely helped somewhat, but that fell away a little bit until about 18. And by that point I was binging, and I really had to go back to that, and I had to go back to it in a deeper way. It's when meditation came into my life. In the midst of all of this, though, I'm going to go back to that, but in the midst of all of this, the spiritual practice that has kept me really connected to myself and the most healing is dance. I really believe it's a spiritual practice. It is. I agree. So healing. And it's the one thing that has kept me, amidst all the disconnection, it's the one thing that's kept me so connected to myself and my body. And it's when nothing else matters, like nobody matters, no one's opinion matter. It's just me and the music and my body and just the rhythm. And it's like, I just find it so spiritual.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's actually a really big part of why I teach dance, really, to be honest. Again, for the same reason that when I look back at my life, dance was the one constant thing that I could count on when my whole life was falling apart. And it provided obviously routine, but release for my like emotions and energy, also increased my endorphins, my creativity. That was like the one bit of feminine energy I always had was dance. Without that, I would have been so masculine. You know, I don't even know what my life would have looked like without dance. And and I think that's really my important part of the essence of why I've always taught, you know, is because I think you're able to give, like, to share your passion with someone is just a beautiful experience, regardless of what it is you do. But when it's movement based and there's the freedom to be anything you want to be, like for me, that's that beautiful, you know, like it's facilitating that for people. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. And I love everything, you know, you said about your spiritual path and your journey. And I think I came across The Secret when I was 18, so I was a bit older.
And
actually I fell off. And then I found it again at 23 when I'd gone through that real life-changing experience. And I did the magic, and the magic gives you like 21 days. You've got to fill out your gratitude list. So then that started that implementation. And then from that point on, I'd got back into journaling. So that was really like a pinnacle point for me. Obviously my question, obviously my podcast is, you know, when was the moment you gave yourself the permission to shine? I feel like that's a nice point for that, like you know, thinking about your journey, when would you say your real shining moment was?
You know, I can't pinpoint one moment. I don't think it was just this one thing that happened and then I came out of you know, hiding. I think it's definitely been at certain different points of my life, and it's definitely involved hearing my own voice to go and do things that I know is going to feel more true to me. So an example of that is I left a literature degree 1.5 years in to go and do a dance degree. When I left the literature degree, I had no place in a university for dance. I just went. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'll find a job. I'll go and do the auditions, and I'll get in somewhere. And I just believed I was going to get in somewhere. It wasn't even like it was a no-brainer. I was like, of course I'm going to get in somewhere. Of course, I had no idea that I was going to get in somewhere. But I think it was just that thing of like, Rakhi, you know what you want, so go and do it. And I think it's definitely been doing things like that, like just jumping into things without actually knowing how it's going to go. But also I've definitely had certain people in my life who've supported me as well, and reminded me of how much shine I have.
That's lovely.
So that stability, you know, given by certain people in my life, be it teachers or friends, or that's definitely also helped. But I think just hearing my own voice has just helped me shine.
No, 100% that. And I think that's so powerful, because that's something that we are notoriously known for as women, for not speaking up. So the fact that you could let her, the inner you, speak up and listen, and this is like the call, right? You know, when you get that call to do something, that almost feels like that in that instance. It's like you have no idea what the future holds, but you're like, physically, mentally, spiritually, I'm being called to do this right now, so I need to just do the thing. And you know, evidently it was the right choice, and it always is, you know, like I feel like we just overthink and overcomplicate so much, but actually if you listen to that inner voice more, it would just change your whole life. And you know, even when it's scary, it's like these things are happening to make you into the version of yourself you need to be for the next stage of your journey. And I always think that now, because just being in those stages where everything was falling apart and I was crumbling and just feeling so, I guess, worthless and all of those things. Now I look back and I'm like, this is why I can help people, because I've been there, and it's been more than one time in my life, you know. So I think if you can build yourself up from rock bottom over and over again, of course you can help other people do the same. And I think that's, you know, the biggest part of the reason why, again, like we said, we do the work we do, because it means so much, and it's just so important and valuable. I guess going back to obviously your journey, like coming into remission and out of remission, what was that process like? Obviously stepping out of the disorder, trying to live a normal life. I guess how did you navigate that space?
It was very up and down. I've had a lot of therapy in my life. I'd say I've had more years of therapy than not. Very up and down. It's very 3 steps forward, but then sometimes 5 steps back. You're just like, am I gonna do this? Am I gonna achieve it? I think for me, the fire in my belly never left. It just never left. Like, no matter how rubbish I felt, no matter that I was binging nearly every day, even when I just had like a 3-month stint of not, and then I'd gone back into it, I was like, well, you've proven to yourself that you can do it, so you're going to do it again. And I think that's why when I talk about recovery, I just don't always see it as like a full stop, like recovered full stop. I could potentially get triggered again in the future. I could potentially turn to food again like that. I don't see that as an impossible thing. It's just, I now have the tools to be able to manage that. And I also have, I guess I've cultivated a lot more grace for myself than I had before. Like, I would have shamed myself very quickly before. But now I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens. And that actually also helps me not do it the next day, because I just see it as like an isolated incident, not something that's going to have to carry on for like 3 weeks.
That's exactly it. That's so beautiful. And I think, the grace part is really it, isn't it? Like, we're human. It is all part and parcel of this process. And I think, it's just wonderful to hear that. And that's a really important part of this podcast, is that I want people to know that, you're not just healed. It's not just an overnight thing where you're like, or even like a couple of years and boom, that's it, we're done forever now. And that's not going to happen. It's, there's a probability in everything. And, but like you've said, as I agree in everything I talk about, is that toolkit. That toolkit is the trusted, that's the backpack, everything's in there. And I think when you have that backpack, even if you fall into the darkness again, you can craft yourself a ladder, or you can, get a torch to see your way out. There's always a way when you have a toolkit. And I think that's power, right? That really is, and again, with power, I talk about that in my obviously title's inner power activation leader, and I think that sounds so strong and fierce, but actually it can be soft and delicate as well. It's just how we interpretate what that word means.
Yeah, for sure. Like, at different times you're going to need the fierce part of you, and at other times you're going to need the softer parts of you, which again, I guess we're talking a bit more about the masculine feminine energies. Like, we need both.
Absolutely.
We are all of it. We're not just one on one end of the spectrum. Like, we need all of it to kind of be our whole self. So
no, absolutely that. And obviously, while we're on this subject, I mean, I know you talk about embodiment, so what would be your interpretation of that in your eyes, for how you facilitate that?
I really think it's really about connecting deeply to yourself, to your body, and that being how you then know who you are. It's very easy to get lost in the noise of society, which then trickles into like family structures, and then potentially friends. Like, it's really easy to get lost in the noise. And I think embodiment is really like just being back into into your body, and listening to your heart, and not the noise of other people. Not to say that certain people in your life are, people can be very supportive and helpful, but like, if we're just listening to everyone else, we may have lost our way.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. And I think, thank you for sharing your interpretation, because I really agree. And I think when we're searching outwardly for whatever it is, like for us, we spoke about need to knowing like the answers for things. And, when we get caught up in that spiral of what does this mean? Why does that mean that? And that's actually how I ended up getting into astrology, because I was just questioning, okay, what is this? Why is this happening? And now I feel like astrology is a tool for me, whereas before it was for me to try and find an answer, which again was me not listening to my own self and connecting it for me. And I think that's a really beautiful way to say it, is that we always have the answer. We always have it within us, anything, and I feel the same way about embodiment. It's just owning every part of you and accepting it. I think that's really it, isn't it? In all of its grace and beauty. But I mean, moving on from that space, and I guess it is still the same golden thread here, but I guess for anyone that's maybe coming out of that phase of, you know, they're in recovery, maybe it's been, you know, a year or so, and they're looking to move forward in their life, what would be kind of like 3 top tips that you would give someone that maybe has been going to therapy and is attempting to do the work? What would be your advice?
Let yourself be human, and know that if you go towards those kind of like, you go towards those what am I trying to say, like, what's the word I'm looking for, those mechanisms, if you go to those mechanisms on a particular day just because they provide the comfort when you've been triggered, like, that does not mean you've failed.
Yeah.
And failure is not a bad thing anyway. So like, let that I think in giving yourself the grace, in reminding yourself you're human, you're able to get back on track the next day. So give yourself the grace of being human, because there's no perfection here. This is not a perfect process. I think number 2 is tap into the tools that you develop during therapy. And I'd say definitely have an array of them, because sometimes, for example, I need to dance it out, but on another day I might just need to walk it out, and then another day I just need to write it out. So like, it's having an array of tools to go back to, not just like one.
Absolutely.
You might not want that. You may not want to do that, I definitely have an array of tools for when things feel really sticky. And number 3, definitely cultivate a support system. Because when these things happen, you might not even want words of advice. You might just want a space for someone to listen. So definitely cultivate that for yourself, because in just being heard and feeling seen, that might be everything you need to move you away from those mechanisms.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for sharing that. And I would have said exactly the same thing, like 100% that. And I can't tell you the beauty of community as well. Obviously we've spoken about toolkit a few times, and absolutely those are my tools too, massive part of that. But the community aspect, I think, is something that I really took for granted. I say I took for granted. I don't think I really had it, and it was my own doing, because I wasn't open enough to share what was going on in my actual life, the vulnerability aspect. But what I've known since then, and obviously being able to see it and live it, that mirror of you, when you shine out your light or whatever it is you're saying, it gets fed back to you. I was always thinking that people were showing me their true self and their vulnerability, but obviously because I wasn't showing my true self and my vulnerability, I was also being presented with that. And actually I had loads of friends at that time. Was it as authentic and organic and as enriched as it could have been? Probably not, because I wasn't at my most purest, most vulnerable self. And I've noticed since I've gone through my transition of healing and this process and changing, and evolving, that a lot of people have gone, and that's okay, it's part of the experience of life. But the friendships I have now really have gotten stronger and deeper, more real, because I can allow myself to be fully myself and feel accepted for it. And as you said, feeling seen, heard and understood was something that I just didn't have. So now that I've cultivated those spaces and been intentional with them, it really is such a powerful way of just keeping me floating. I don't feel like I'm drowning anymore. And even recently, when I've gone through like a little bit of a turbulent time, having the tools, having the support network, really, and obviously again my own version of having a mentor and all of that outlet, that has really kept me floating when I would have sunk before. I would have been drowning in that whatever it was going through. But because obviously I have this toolkit, this the friendships, the mentor, I definitely just kept swimming, and it was fine, and that wasn't forced. It was very much like, again, that seat at the soul moment where it's like, I would have handled this very differently before. I'm proud of me. And it's just nice to have those inner moments, that inner dialogue, as you said, like to to connect back to yourself and just have a bird's eye view. I think that's what we need, don't we? You know, like you spoke about being in the storm. It's like, can you zoom out and, like, you know, can you see the eye of the storm and see where the problem starts? And, you know, is there something you can do about it? If there's not, you've got to let it pass through you. And I think, you know, that's another important thing. It's going through it, isn't it? You know, you can't hide, you can't run, you can't duck, because it will come back and get you another time. So
it comes back with a vengeance. I definitely know that. And it's definitely just being through it, not doing through it, not like running away from it. It's just like, I'm gonna have to just be here and let it move through, because it will. It always does.
Oh, 100% that. You know, what's interesting is that obviously, you know, into astrology, I've been trying to work out what your star sign is.
Oh,
but you have a variation of different traits. So I think that your sun, moon and rising are all different elements, because in your character you have different like things, and I'm normally quite good with this, but I feel like I can't suss you out. But so first of all, I felt from your nurturing energy, I felt Cancer energy. I felt like there was some Cancerian, like softness, mothering, like water energy. And then when you spoke about being clean, I thought she must have Virgo in her.
Oh, that's interesting.
Processing, and maybe if it's not Virgo, it could be Taurus or Capricorn, because of that, like, organization and like the processes. And then when you're speaking about fire, I was like, this could either be Scorpio or it could be Aries. So I was like, and Scorpio isn't a fire sign, but it has that little sting. But I feel like where you've got other water elements, I was like, okay, but tell me what it is.
I'm a Gemini.
Are you? Oh my gosh. But then do you know your rising and your moon?
I don't.
Okay, right. Well, can you find that out for me? And
I will find out and let you know. Yeah. I'll find out and let you know. But no, I'm a Gemini.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so didn't get any of that. But I think it's because of the conversation we're on. You know, if I saw you out and about and we had a chat, I might have felt differently.
Because most people, like, when out and about, would say Gemini. Like, I think a lot of people would say that. But I think I think it just depends what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Gemini is a mutable sign. So depending on your environment is how you appear. And that's the same with all kind of, not all air signs, but you know, the mutable signs. But sorry, off tangent, but I just thought, I wonder, because I was just thinking through little things you said, because you definitely got a fiery energy to you in your passion and like the dedication to keep pushing forward through what you're going through. But equally, as I said, you know, there's definitely that nurturing energy, but that could come from the Gemini, really, because Gemini, again, is the twins, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
And the Virgo, like the cleanliness, that kind of interesting. Anyway.
It's interesting you say the Virgo part, because I feel like I have to do quite a lot intentionally to be grounded. I'm naturally quite flowy. In just like I've found that business wise, like I could just flow all day, but I've had to, like, especially like content creation and stuff like that, but I've had to like really hone down and ground, because I need like a stable container to flow in, because otherwise I could be up there in the all day, every day.
No, that's lovely, because that's obviously your feminine energy, you know, that's when you're allowing yourself to be in that space. But I think it's obviously, like you said, creating that time limit for when you can flow and then actually getting to it. But I think what I'm learning with business, especially obviously doing it yourself, is that every day looks different. And it's okay for it to be different. I think I was going like in a very masculine structured way, and that doesn't actually work for me every day. Some days I need to move it around, and I think it's having discipline to do the things you need to do every day, but it can look different each day. And I think that's a really just nice space, isn't it, to navigate through. I think that's life, isn't it, in general? You know, it's like having a loose structure that you can flow between. I think is like a nice way to think of it.
And I feel like life shows us anyway that we can plan all we want.
Absolutely.
But life ain't gonna go exactly the way we want it to. It's all an illusion. So
yes, fully that 100%. But anyway, on to round up, I like to always say, you know, if there's like a soul to soul message. Now, sometimes I say it's something you'd like to say to your younger self, but equally it could be to a listener that, you know, maybe going for a tough time right now, or just anything that you feel like in your soul right now, you feel like you want to share. That's this space for you.
I think I'd like to say, it feels really tough right now, but you're going to look back and you're going to be so proud of yourself for like how far you've come. Because like, as long as you're alive, you're moving forward. It might feel like you're stuck and it might feel really muddy and like you can't get your feet out of the mud, but as long as you're alive, you're moving forward. So you will look back and you will be extremely proud of yourself.
Yes, absolutely, 100% that. And you know, even my own journey, I've looked back a few times and been like, wow, like I can't believe I made it through that. You know, like what set to break me time and time again, I made it through. And I think if I can do it, anyone can do it, you know. And I think there's definitely, like, if I sit with my younger self even on that, she wouldn't even dream that we'd have made it this far. And I think that's just a really beautiful way, and however that looks for you, to really sit back. It could be material, it could be physical, it could be spiritual. I think if you can look back and, you know, say that answer or to anyone going through a difficult time, it's like, you know, the fact that you chose to get up and move forward is a reason to be proud of yourself. And I think we put being proud on a pedestal, don't we? But actually it doesn't need to be. And I heard this the other day and I was like, yeah, this is very much it. It's making miracles normal. You know, we live miracles every day. And I think we don't, you know, if we can normalize and appreciate them as something special, but equally know that every day we're worthy of something special, it just calls more into us as well. You know, like obviously manifestation is a big part of my work, and it's because I feel like it is the byproduct of deep self-worth. You know, you are worthy of that thing, so you will have it, and that goes for life and all of those things in between. But thank you so much for, you know, sharing your time with me today and the listeners. And I just I'm really excited to see how your journey progresses and, you know, how it grows. And I know that you're going to help so many people with everything you do. But yeah, please tell us about your offers, where we can find you, and obviously I'll pop everything in the show notes as well so people can find you on there.
Amazing. So currently a website is pending, but you can find me on Instagram. You come and hang out with me there. I love a good DM. Like, I'm all about that interaction and like just having a human conversation. So it's at Rakhi Sachdev _. I am on LinkedIn. That's sort of slowly but surely being nurtured, so you can also find me there if that's where you hang out. And in terms of my offers, so I've actually just released a private one-to-one offer, which is called Hungry for More. And it's all about empowering you as a woman to like liberate yourself from the tyranny of societal rules and norms, through the lens of body acceptance, through the lens of really kind of nurturing and mothering yourself and your connection to self, getting to know who you are away from the noise, and kind of going out into the world in your fullest and most truest expression. So doors are open for that. So if you're interested, if you just want to connect and get to know one another, come over to Instagram, because that's where I'll be mostly.
Oh, amazing. No, thank you so much. And as I said, I'm really excited to see how everything moves forward for you. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, whatever you're doing. And thank you for joining.
Thank you, you too.